In today's society, entrepreneurial ventures have been considered increasingly popular. The dedicated visionaries who indulge in these ventures are members of an elite squad worthy of talking that icon-ish. These are their stories. Hello, and welcome world. This is Icon-ish, the home of free game in free form for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. I am your host, Drea Will, and I got something super special lined up for you today. We are officially out of the quarantine phase of this pandemic here in Atlanta, Georgia, soon to be for the rest of the world. It is my hope that you've had some time to learn something new, let go of something old, love a little harder, and just get in touch with yourself, man. It's so important to check the man or the woman in the mirror every now and then and refocus. So my prayers are with you all. Now today, I'm on the line with not only one of my favorite human beings in the world, but an image maker and a creative director who told me in 2012 that he wanted to shoot for big brands, shoot big names, and he did it. His latest project with Uniqlo is as visually stimulating as it is proper, but the same passion reads through his campaign work with Nike, Hypebeast, Elle Magazine, and Marvel, just to name a few. Man, he has created a brand so thorough that he's had the pleasure of collaborating with major models, major entertainers like Summer Walker, Jadenia Black, Lakeith Stanfield, and Cardi B. Man, please give the warmest welcome to my next guest. To me, he is Mr. Faisal Muhammad, but to the rest of the world, and according to Oprah, he is Mr. Revivethecool. Pay attention, ladies and gentlemen. Free game, free game, free game. Let's go.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Dre, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you? It's been so long.
I know. When was the last time I talked to you?
Like
Six,
2012.
8 years ago?
Man, it's been a minute. Remember when we were Conyers and I had that little studio and
Yeah.
I think we were trying to get like some lookbook photos or something. Anywho, we sat in the car for like a good 15, 20 minutes just talking about where we wanted to be and what we wanted to do. And,
Yeah.
I look up several years later and you're doing everything we said. You know what I mean? How does that feel? You're so great, man. I love you.
It feels good. I'm glad you remember. I was definitely thinking about those moments too. We had some wild times.
Man,
I mean,
man.
making things work, right?
Yeah, man. We all made it work some kind of way, but we were literally just kids, you know what I mean? Just creative kids in
Yeah.
Atlanta just running around trying to make the best of what we had.
Yeah, and it's crazy. You have all these dreams, and like at that moment, I mean, you're still accomplishing.
Yeah, man. It's
Yeah,
tough.
but it's been to answer your question, it's been good. I mean, as you know, life a lot of ups, a lot of downs, and just like I think my motive is just like never to give up. Honestly,
Absolutely.
like it's just like like I don't care about anything else as long as I get to do what I want to do. And with that, you're gonna do a lot of things you don't want to do.
Mm.
And you're going to be in a lot of situations that necessarily you feel like are bringing you down, but it's all a part of the journey when you look back at it. So
Absolutely.
it's
Well,
been good, but
man,
I cannot complain at all.
yeah, okay. Neither one of us actually. So I know you, but for the people that don't know you, who are you and what do you do?
Well, my name is Faisal Muhammad, and I am an image maker
Mm.
and director. And I say image maker because I started off as a photographer, but I think the art of photography is making an image. You don't take a photo, you make it.
Right.
And that also extends into everybody else that doesn't specifically take pictures. So art directors, creative directors, models, and like your assistants and all the people that help you light and all of that, they're
Right.
helping you make an image because an image is like a painting.
I love that.
So, you have to pick your colors, your light, your subject, and all of that. So that, and then for as far as directing, of course, that just leads into the world of film because,
Right.
that's just an extension of photography.
Right.
So also been picking that up as well. And I've had an affinity for music, so now I DJ as well.
Okay, I saw that. I know we always used to turn up at like all the college parties. So, how did
Yeah.
you even get into DJing? Like, where did that come from?
For me, it's been a long childhood dream, honestly. Like
Dope.
when I was a kid, that was one of the things that always like sort of astonished me because like when I listened to radio in Ghana and like when I like go to parties or events and stuff, it just baffled me how one person could control the mood of an entire
Oh
like
yeah.
room, whether it be like 500 people or 10,000 people. So that has always been there for me, and I just grew up with music. Like we always had music at home. Like when we were cleaning, my cousins would introduce me to new music, new artists, and my mom as well was a huge influence. And that's why like, I just moved into directing because like as a child, like I used to watch R-rated movies with my mom and my family, and they'd be like, "Close your eyes," when people are making out or whatever.
Yeah.
But with the music thing, I've just always been fascinated about it, and that's why I was friends with a lot of DJs too. I realized like the DJs that I really admire, I was really good friends
Good
with them
friends.
because I enjoyed them being able to play good music and mix well. So yeah, that's just the history of that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Did you grow up in Ghana?
Yeah, so I
Okay.
grew up there since I was like till I got to like 12.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved here to New York at first, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
And we were like a family of, I think, 7,
Mm-hmm.
like 4 or 5 kids, my mom included, and one of our aunties as well. So we came to New York in the winter, and I remember getting off the plane and stepping into JFK with flip flops on, coming from like Ghana and
God.
Egypt. We transited in Egypt, and it was like January here, and I was
Sheesh. In New
like, oh
York?
shit, yeah, it's fucking cold, and
God.
we have on flip flops and shit, so we definitely had to like
Oh, some
change
real.
the
That's a
the
real coming to
guard.
America visual right there. Like, where are we?
Definitely, yeah,
That's dope.
definitely a real coming to America visual. But yeah, so New York at first, but it was hard to sustain a big family with just moving and then coming to New York already.
Right.
So we ended up going to Alabama for some months, and that was also the extreme opposite of New York. So you move to like
For sure.
the suburbs with just racist white people and just all that jazz. And this is like 15, 16 years ago.
Uh-huh.
So I think one of my mom's friends recommended Atlanta because there were a lot of like Ghanaians living in Atlanta,
Mm-hmm.
and we ended up moving there, and that became home
Oh,
afterwards.
okay. How old were you when you came to Atlanta?
I think I was maybe like 12.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So
I think I was 12 around then.
still a youngin. Okay. So when you came to Atlanta and I guess transitioning into or coming of your own, going through puberty and adolescence and figuring out, okay, this is who I am, this is who I'm not, this is what I like, this is what I don't. How did you end up taking photos, and how did that end up being, I guess, kind of your first venture?
So before photos, it was so graduating high school. I definitely was still the culture shock was still real for
Mm.
me, just
Wow.
because
Even
like I
after
was
the 4 or 5 years?
after
Mm.
4 or 5 years, because the culture of transitioning from high school to college
Mm-hmm.
was new to me. I just didn't understand it. So
Mm-hmm.
like I almost didn't graduate because like I was like postponing everything.
Mm.
As far as like applying for schools, and I went to Mays High School in
Hey.
Atlanta, where Earth Gang is from too. So like we used
Yeah.
to, I used to be in a band with them and stuff like that. So it's
What?
cool to see them grow as well. Yeah, and
Wow.
Olu, who is one half of Earth Gang, yeah, we used to sell candy together. So
Oh,
he was like
wow.
the supplier, yeah, and then
Wow.
he'll bring it to school and sell candy and all that. But getting out of school, I was in band, so we were being pushed a lot into like HBCUs
Uh-huh.
and things of that nature, and I didn't understand the concept of like a historically black institution or college,
Uh-huh.
and also I was in like graphic design and like arts as well. So I also wanted to do arts, but essentially I figured out that I just wanted to do something that's going to give me money.
Mhm.
So I
As
almost
we
didn't
all do at
graduate.
first.
Yeah, I almost didn't graduate, but I after I got out and I realized that all my friends were like going to college and stuff, I ended up going to DeVry
Okay.
for computer information systems, I believe, and that was like I think the worst decision ever because I flunked out. I think after the second year or something, and it was very expensive.
Yeah.
And you're working. You don't have a real college atmosphere. Like you're just
Right.
working with people who, are like in the
Go ahead.
field still, or moms
Mhm.
and people who are a little older. So that wasn't the main reason. I just didn't like what I was doing.
Mhm.
So I flunked out. My mom still doesn't know. So hopefully she
Oh,
doesn't listen
snap.
to
Hold up. Sorry, Mom.
She said she doesn't listen to this podcast, but after a while, I just told her I didn't want to go to that school anymore. But my GPA was so low that I had to like go to a community college to build it up. So I ended up going to, I can't remember if it's, I think it's Georgia something, Georgia
Perimeter?
Polytechnic or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Perimeter.
Okay,
Yes,
Georgia
yes,
Perimeter.
yes, Perimeter. Yes.
GPC. What's
I
up?
went to Perimeter for a little bit, and then ended up getting my GPA up, and then I realized that I wanted to go to SCAD. During that time, I was dating a girl that was doing photography, but her parents, she was from Ghana as well, but her parents didn't really want her to pursue that. And I just saw like an opportunity in that. So I, picked it up, and then we just sort of started working together. But I think eventually she just dropped out, and then we weren't seeing each other anymore. And my mom was moving to Ghana because she was like, hey, now you're in college, you could take care of yourself and all of this. So, I'm just going to go back home. I'm more comfortable there. So, you really need to figure out what you need to do. And at that point, I think it took me like a week or something. I just sat at home and I was valeting at the time too, but I just sat at home and I just like thought about exactly what I wanted to do, where I wanted to be. So I went through like the different aspects of photography. So like landscape, celebrity portraiture, fashion, like product photography. And I was like, what do I want to do? Like, what would I be excited about in the long run? And how do I see myself? So I ended up on fashion photography and beauty and, portraits. And I think I just made a promise to myself at that time that I was going to make it. Like I didn't have an option.
Yeah, that was like option
do.
A and B.
Yes, I didn't want to do anything else. So from there, I just really like grinded it out. And we've been there. Like I was shooting concerts, I was shooting stuff for you. Basically, any opportunity that was thrown my way, I like took it while I sort of, guided myself and steered myself to where I want to be. So that's like how I came about photography.
Now, today's show is brought to you by Room to Work. Not only is this my personal co-working space, but it's the only place in Atlanta where you can work, meet, store your inventory, and even record your podcast under one roof. Schedule your tour today and use my code ICONISH to get free time in their studio, meeting room, warehouse, whatever. That's right, I said free. So head on over to room2work.com to find out more and tell them I sent you. Everybody listen, you have to check out this Instagram. It is Revivethecool, and the images, are just phenomenal. And even back in 2012 or whatever year that was, Faisal was the best, most talented photographer in Atlanta. I'm saying it right there. Like I already knew that your skill was going to take you somewhere, wherever you wanted to go, it would take you there. So being in Atlanta doing, the concerts and doing fashion shoots for me or whatever you were doing, how did you make your way back to New York?
Through that journey. So let's say after I started photography and I started shooting and stuff, I realized I wanted to go to SCAD. So the funny thing was I was looking up art schools, and then I looked at Creative Circus, and then I looked at SCAD. So one of my mentors, Russell Dreyer, shout out to Russell Dreyer, still an OT, I love you. And he recommended Creative Circus because he went there. So I went to Creative Circus for an interview with the dean, because he knew the dean and stuff. So I went there, showed my portfolio. Who? Sorry?
You said he needed what?
He knew the dean.
Okay.
Yeah. So I went there and showed him my portfolio and stuff, and he was like, look, basically this school is for people who've gone to undergrad and then are coming here. The portfolio is strong, but I think you need to develop a little bit more before you come here. Essentially how I sort of took it was like, I'm not good enough.
Oh, yeah.
So I applied to SCAD, and then I got into SCAD, and then I just really started pushing from there, because I didn't go to SCAD right after high school. So when I got into SCAD, I was much more focused on exactly what I wanted to do. So I wasn't bullshitting.
Exactly.
So I did SCAD for a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 years. So after a couple of years, the dean called me back and was like, hey, I'm looking at your work and it's pretty amazing. Do you want to come teach at Creative Circus?
Wow.
And I
Wait,
was like,
what?
yeah.
What? You go from a no to we need you to come tell everybody else how to do what you're doing. That's crazy.
Yeah, so that sort of let me know I was on the right path, and I was super excited. So I taught at Creative Circuits for like 2 quarters or like 2 semesters. I don't know how they rate it now, but
Hmm.
I did that, and I was teaching fashion and beauty photography
Mm.
with a hint of advertising.
Hmm.
So I did that. It was really, really fun. And then right before like, my final year ish, I started like, doing like some other jobs. So I was the marketing director for Imam Manier
Mm.
for a little bit in Atlanta. And for those of you who don't know that, that's like a high end streetwear store.
A good friend of mine works there.
Oh, who is it?
Antoine Design.
I think I know
Oh,
Antoine.
yeah. Wait a minute. You should remember Twan because we were both doing the fashion thing. It was kind of us everywhere. All the fashion shows. It was me and him.
Oh,
Photography and
yeah,
stuff.
yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah,
yeah,
Twan. I
yeah,
think his
definitely, yeah.
brand was at the time it was Antique Society.
Oh, yes, I
Yeah,
remember that society. Man, I remember all those
man,
brands.
so
Us trying to
good,
like really push and do things. So yeah,
man.
that was like a really cool experience, and I definitely like when people are like, how did you get to where you are? I'm like, you do a lot of things that you want to do, and you do a lot of things
Things
that
that
you
you
don't want
don't,
to do, but ultimately just know where you want to go.
for sure.
But yeah, so after teaching a little bit there, I got approached with a business opportunity, and then we started a business with my old business partner, and it was a creative agency essentially. So we started working with Wish
Dope.
as
Shout out
your
to
main
Wish.
creative agency. Yeah, shout out to Wish. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I did that for some time. The things, didn't go well. So while I was doing that, I just figured that I was doing so good. Like people were asking me while I was still in school, and I had to pay tuition out of my pocket. So I was like, why am I still paying for school when like we have clients and like I'm doing
Right.
all this other stuff? So I ended up dropping out. But because the business didn't go so well, the business went well, and put that right. It was going well, but like I wasn't getting along with my partner, so I
Uh-huh.
ended up parting ways. And then right at that time as well, I wanted to move to New York, but I got introduced on an opportunity with Drum, who was going on tour then,
That's
and
dope.
I already knew his managers, and because I shot like Rari and Black, and
Yep.
then
Yep. Yep.
they
Yep.
started managing
Actually,
Drum.
so
So
he's on what is it? Love?
sorry,
Is it Love Renaissance? Is the label?
yeah, it's Love
LVRN.
Renaissance. Yeah, so
Okay.
yeah, so LVRN. So Tunde, Justice,
All of them
and
guys. Very familiar.
Carlin, yeah, all of them, yeah. So they're the homies. Shout out to them as well.
Shout out to
And
them.
then before then too, another huge, huge person that was very influential in my growing up and like getting these opportunities was Trayvon Williams. I
Dope.
don't know if you know Trayvon.
I love Trayvon. Like,
Yeah, he is like
period.
one of my best friends ever. Like I love Trayvon to death. So shout out to Trayvon.
Dope. Yes, sir.
So yeah, right afterwards, I went on tour with Drum, and that was like I think 3 or 4 months.
Hmm.
So we toured all of America, and meanwhile, I had my friends, sending my stuff to New York for me.
Mm.
And so, like right after tour, I went back to Atlanta. I stayed there for like 5 days, and I flew to New York because I knew this is where I wanted to be, and I just didn't want to be in Atlanta anymore because Atlanta is great, but for what I wanted to do, I just felt
Right.
like it stunted my growth a little bit
Right. Right.
in
Right.
terms of access to publications,
Mm-hmm.
clients,
Yep.
as well as, the fashion houses and the showrooms and stuff. So yeah, just ended up moving here and yeah, I'm here now.
I love it. As far as you having clients, like, are you or were you working, let's say, under contract, or is it kind of just like freelance, by project, by client?
Yeah. So like after I moved, and this is a part of why I named Revive the Cool and not just like Faisal Muhammad photography or anything of that nature because like I just came from a family of business owners.
Right.
Like my dad is a business owner, my stepdad is a business owner, my mom is a business owner. I don't think she's ever worked for anybody since like she gave birth to me.
I love that.
So I always knew that I wanted to do something that was, like a bigger business. So I switched Revive the Cool to be a creative agency, and that's why I call
Nice.
myself an image maker now, not just
Right.
a photographer. Because at the end of the day, when it comes down to it, what we do, what you and I do. So let's say like we're shooting a campaign or something,
Mhm.
sometimes you get a client that just sends you all the creative and stuff, and then you still have to put together like your treatment for that creative.
Got you.
So I'm still figuring out that, not figuring out, but I figured out that we are image makers, and that, when it comes to the creative process, like, didn't want to exclude myself from just, taking photos, because I love putting together the reference images. I love helping with the casting, and I love
Same.
actually doing the post production and like the coloring and all of that nature.
Right.
So
Just a
as of
complete
now,
visual
like,
package.
exactly.
Yeah.
And then over time, I also built a contact, like, editors or colorists or stylists and stuff. So essentially it became like an agency production house right now, and that's where we are.
Dope.
So we work on just freelance basis with a plethora of clients. We work with hypebeasts a lot, sometimes on the creative end, sometimes on the retouching end, sometimes just on the lighting end. So like I go in and light stuff for them and like help them figure out how to make something look real.
Gotcha.
So yeah, that's sort of where we are now, is that, we're like a freelance agency that we work with like whoever and like whatever the ask is.
Gotcha. So are you still working now? Like, are you still getting calls from clients, or, how is business in New York?
Business in New York is at a standstill.
Like the rest of the world?
Yeah, we basically can't leave home to do anything at the moment. So everything's been on a standstill. Maybe you've gotten like a few emails about maybe like doing some products at home, shooting some products at home, or like doing some post production here and there. So that's like where it is right now. But at the moment, I'm still, figuring out how to come out of like this on top.
Yeah.
Because I do think that the industry is going to change a lot, and that a lot of like the big creative agencies that, people used to go to all the time are still operational. But as of now, I think a lot of bigger companies and clients are going to be looking at smaller crews and smaller individuals who can, get stuff done with a good production budget and like minimal crew.
Right. And that's one of the things I've always said is, when you have like this huge budget and, let's say it's $50,000, but you can actually get that same quality done for, a quarter or even less of that, just by finding some of these independent, talents that we have. There's so many. So
absolutely,
man, it's crazy.
Absolutely. You're right about that. And that's who I'm leaning towards. So making a list and like finding people who can sort of cater to that and then grow from there, because I think this is, everything is going to change after this.
Yeah. As far as the creative industry in New York, just from your peers or whoever you're around, are you feeling anything shifty from your industry as far as images, creativity, or is it, pretty much along with everybody else trying to figure it out?
Yeah, everybody else is trying to figure it out, honestly. Everybody I've talked to, or, I've been in touch with, has been, we're just trying to sort this out. We're just trying to figure out how to work through this and out of this. So I think everybody is working. Some people have like minimal strategies going on, and like, just like working from home and like, being on a lot of calls remotely and stuff. But nobody knows where this is going. So we don't know what to do.
Right. Everything's up in the air. I see on your Instagram, you're doing something called a quarantine project. Is that something for you?
Yeah, that's something I've been working on with our director friend of mine, and we've just been shooting an object a day. That's how we started. But seeing as we're so particular, and usually maybe it might take like 3. You see an image and you think it's just shot and done, but it takes like 3 hours just to get that one image. So we sort of like shifted to doing about 2 to 3 posts a week, but still like doing that project. So trying to stay creative in that, with shooting like objects that are at hand at home. So trying to shoot it in a creative way, but also for us, that's a way of trying to invite new clients in and say that, hey, like, if we can do this with 2 people, if you give us enough budget, with like you add 3 more people on top, we can definitely do more than this for you.
Right.
So that's the goal of that project, essentially. It's sort of like, what do you call it? It's like an experiment, right? And it's also just like a way to stay creative with things we have at hand, because I think I'm just so used to, going on a big produced set with models and stylists and all of these other aspects. So I'm like, let me go back to the roots, because I used to do this at home too. So how do I get that done?
Are you working on anything currently? Any clients? What's the next things for you? I know we're all kind of on our toes, just waiting for, what's going to happen. But what are you thinking?
So next for me, I mean, we've been sort of like trying to court a couple of our clients. So one of them being like Uniqlo for quite some time now. So we're hoping like after we come out of this, we'll get some more projects with them. But outside of that, I was reaching out to friends because a lot of my friends now have just like branched off and, sort of formed their own creative studios. And so for them too, like, what I realized that they have some strengths that I don't have and, vice versa. So sort of creating alliances,
Yeah.
mastermind alliances and creating a network of people that we can all share projects through. So if I get a client, I have a friend that could be the client facing side of it and then I handle a lot of the creative. Or if I get a client, if they get a client, they can face the client facing side and they hand me the creative to handle. So that's like how we're looking to sort of come out of this now and work like smaller, but as a bigger group. So think more like conglomerate.
Yeah, no, I love that. I feel that that's one of the things. Well, the main things here in Atlanta is, people don't like to share a game. People don't like to work together. Everybody wants to charge you $1,000 to do something that they've never been paid for. You know what I mean? Yep. And I've always said, like, if we can all just put our creative minds together, our talents together, like we are so much stronger as a group. And I feel like us being social distance is going to force us to build those bonds with people in those actual relationships where you have to call me or you have to, let me know what's up with you. Tell me how you feel. How's your day going? And not just fine, because you went to work, came home, and that's your response. It's like, it's good. No, like, tell me really what's going on. Let's really find out, who each other is. That's the main things.
Yeah. And I used to think like that too. I think in college a lot, I was like, it was more of a competition, but more for us was like a friendly competition in college between the, like, the creative.
Yeah.
On like who's gonna, come up with the best project, the best images, etc.
Yeah.
But after we got out, and I'm really grateful for that. Is that like my friends, we all look at each other as like a creative, supportive resource because at the end of the day, you can never create the same work. You can give somebody the same tools, but they will never be able to replicate your style or whatever.
Exactly.
So I started figuring out that, sort of thinking more like Italians and Jews where, it's all in a family and they all grow together.
Say that.
So I was like, yes, why don't we approach it that way? And all my friends think that way as well. So shout out to them. And then, just had some conversations and figured out, okay, well, let's get out of this together. So like we're sending each other like, grants and like little things that we've heard here and there. And like I had a conversation, I think about 2 days ago with one of my friends because then shout out to Ian Vegas.
What's up, Ian?
He called me and he was just like, hey, do you know how the new algorithm works for Instagram? I was like, no, actually, tell me. He's like, well, I noticed that your posts weren't performing as well. And that was happening to me as well. So, when you post within the first hour, you need to make sure that people engage and you engage back. And then, the post is going to stay on top or it's going to show up earlier because like I saw your post like the next day and that's not helping you. Right. So I was like, oh my God, well, thank you. Right. I did not know that.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And even with saying that, like I follow you on Instagram, but I never see your post. Now I'm not on Instagram a whole bunch, but when I do get on there, I scroll for about a good 5 or 10 minutes, but it's always the same people, the same people, the same stories. Like I'm finding myself unfollowing people that, just cause I'm tired of seeing their stuff on my timeline. So
exactly. Yeah, they're like, this is not, helping me. And I keep seeing the same thing. So yeah, so I think sticking together again is the best way to go and like everybody growing and eating together because like at the end of the day, like if it's shared is better. Like being greedy is definitely not going to help.
Yeah, man. That's love. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for getting online with us. Absolutely. Go ahead and tell the people where they can find you, all that good stuff.
All right. So you can find me on Instagram. It's Revivethecool, RevivetheCool. On Instagram, on Vimeo, the same thing. Any channel, it's just Revivethecool. My SoundCloud is up too, so some mixes. I just did a mix for Kinfolk in New York, and It's up now. I'm working on some more of the mixes. I have a few editorials coming out, but I can't put them out yet because it's a little insensitive to what's going on right now. So we're holding on to those until after everything goes off. But yeah, thank you, Drea.
It's so dope.
And we got to talk on the side too. I definitely want to catch up with you and see what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely do. Thank you so much. I love you and take care.
Love you. All right, you too. Bye.
Bye.